How do you learn to not care about what other people think of you? This is a hard one, and this is where I'm screwing up right now. The way to forget the insults is to not take in the compliments in the first place. Because when someone insults you, for that insult to affect you, it has to hit in self-image that you have created. And that self-image was created through compliments, and through as a kind of a defense mechanism. So if you can avoid getting happy, and this is obviously hard, but if you can avoid being happy when somebody compliments you, then you won't be as insulted when they insult you. Also, for an insult to really affect you, it has to have some level of truth to it. If you're real thin and I call you fat, or if you're old and I call you, you're young and I call you old, it's not going to stick. So there has to be some small level of truth in it for it to affect you. So you have to think deep down, like, what did this person say that was true that I don't want to hear? Especially if an insult like really sticks with you for a while. Now, obviously, if someone's slandering you, that's different. You know, your reputation can be destroyed and so on. But I just mean sort of like if someone, for example, says that you're, an angry person or an arrogant person, you get all worked up over it, there's probably some level of truth to it.
Because if we're talking and I'm looking here, I don't know what you're going to do next, and I'm going to put disjunctions into the, like, they're like bad chords in the melody of our conversation. And the reason is I'm not paying attention. So that's why the I is the thing at the top of the pyramid. It's like the thing that enables you to win the set of all possible dominance hierarchies is the I. Pay attention. Pay attention. That's the critical issue. That's why the Egyptians worshipped Horus. That's why Horus was the thing that rescued Osiris from the depths. It's the capacity to pay attention. What do you pay attention to most? What your right hemisphere signals as anomalous. It attracts your attention. It's like, this isn't going quite right. I'm not looking at that. Wrong. That's what you look at. That's what you look at. What's not going right. Because that's the terrible monster that might eat you, but it's also the place you get all the information. So that's why it's useful to have discussions with your enemies, because they will tell you things you do not know. And that's such a great thing, because if you don't know them, well, you're not very smart, are you? You know, there may be a time when you go somewhere that's the thing you need to know. And maybe your enemy will tell you why you're such a fool, you know, and a bunch of other things that aren't true too. But even one thing that's accurate, it's like, yeah, thanks very much, man, maybe I'll do some work on that and I won't have to carry that forward. So, and then that's part of the reason, again, why the terrible predator, it's always the terrible predator that has the gold. It's like, it's the person who delivers the message you do not want to hear. So it's rough, but it doesn't matter. Life is rough.
Elsewhere, I've written about this, and that is when somebody insults you, what's the best way to respond? Standard way to respond is what? To get insulted, to insult them back, and to get angry that they've insulted you. Much better way, laugh it off. Because then it does you no harm at all. And you know what? It's one of the worst ways from their point of view. They insulted you and you just giggled, right? So that in itself is a much worse kind of insult than if you had, because they expect you to say something negative back. Or another similar thing, if somebody insults you, you just carry on as if they hadn't said anything at all. And then you watch, and what they'll do is they'll repeat the insult thinking, you know, maybe he didn't hear me. And then you'll say, oh, no, I heard you. And then you just carry on talking. So it's a very interesting response. You frame it as a joke. And then what happens? You don't trigger the negative emotions. So other frames that you can use, when somebody does something that harms you in some way, you can allow yourself to get angry, and then you're going to have to deal with that anger, and that anger is going to cost you. Or you can frame it as simple incompetence on the person. Isn't that unfortunate? That person is incompetent, and maybe he wasn't educated properly. Maybe he had a hard childhood, but he's simply incompetent. I'm not going to assume that he messed up the way he did in order to ruin my day. I'm going to assume that it's just a poor, incompetent person.